Hello, this is Dumb What Ifs here. Today for my first video. I hope you enjoyed this video, cause to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm gonna enjoy this. if Hope you guys enjoy. So we're gonna start off this video with not with Izuku Midoriya. We're starting off with, well, I should say this is what if Deku had all for one. And yes, Deku Midoriya will, Deku Midoriya, sorry, Izuku Midoriya will be the child of All for One, or simply known as Hisashi Midoriya. Now, in this story, Hisashi Midoriya will still be All for One, of course, but Inko will not have her small telekinesis, but she will have a small analyzation quirk. This quirk allows her to see anyone's quirk, so she can just see what the quirk does, basically. So if you have a strength quirk, that's all she can see. Now, we go to where All for One is just being All for One. We go to, let's say, we're gonna move All for One's and All Might's fight a bit more back than in canon, because in canon, All for One fights All Might, I'm pretty sure, when Izuku Midoriya is 5 or 6, not sure. Either way, we're moving it to where Izuku Midoriya. Wait a sec. Sorry, I'm back right now, but where do we leave off? Oh, yeah. So, the fight of All for One and All Might happens earlier in canon, and let's just say inconvenience. All for One has a super regenerative quirk, so he does not need the mask or anything. But instead, what happens is after that battle, Inko, of course, she is pregnant and she's gonna have Izuku in, let's say, 2 months. In this, All for One thinks to himself and he questions himself to Inko, asking if he should continue being a villain or should he stop to raise his family and protect them and just live a normal life so then their child is not in danger. And All for One thinks for this for a long time, and then let's say Izuku is 1 month from being born. At this point, he takes a long time to consider this, and All for One stops being All for One, and he stops being a villain, and he becomes Hisashi Midoriya. Now, All Might has noticed, and many people have noticed, like Nezu, Aizawa, people like that that were aware of the fights and everything. They were aware that All for One has stopped. Now, All Might, in fear, he's thinking of the possible solutions of what's going on, and he's thinking, what if All for One is in hiding because of his injury, or what if All, All for One is planning something to fight All Might, or what if he just ran away from the country? All Might is thinking, but Nezu cuts All Might short and just tells him, All Might, I think we should just investigate, see if there's any proof of where he might be. All Might, in desperation, agrees to Nezu, and they start the investigation. Now we're gonna move to where Izuku is born. It's just a normal birth. Hisashi was there, All for One, I should say. I'm gonna call him All for One so not to confuse you guys. But All for One is there with Inko, just very happy. He's just delighted to see his child. and that his child does not seem to look anything like him, because after a while, he's noticed all the wrong he's done and he doesn't like himself as a person. So he's very happy that Zuku looks more like his mother, because Hizashi has white hair and, let's say, blue eyes. Why not? And a very stern look about him. And Izuku grows up to the age of 3, and through these years, All Might, Nezu, and Aizawa have, and some other here, some police, like I don't know his name, but the dog person, they are looking for, and the person that knows All Might's secret, but they are looking for All for One, until one day All Might notice that one person looks a lot like All for One, and he goes by the name Sashi Midoriya. All Might then says to Nezu for them to bring up a photo of All for One, and when they do, they pull up the comparisons and to see that these are the same people. All Might is completely furious at this, and he's about to leave and to go after All for One, but he is cut short by Nezu saying, "All Might, I think we should do more digging in, oops, to see what if he has any family." All Might, hearing this, being concerned, thinking that he could be raising a child to fight against All Might, knowing that All Might wouldn't be able to bring himself to fight a child. So they do more digging in, and to find only 2 Midoriyas left alive. That would be Inko Midoriya and Izuku Midoriya. Finding this out, they are they are going to go to visit them more, let's say. But Nezu has a plan. He says, "How about we get Ayasawa to go to All for One's home and confront him, but try questioning him to see how he reacts." All Might, hearing this, is kind of reluctant, but at the same time, knowing anyone could get information would be Aizawa. Now, Aizawa is asked if he could, Aizawa agreeing, but asking if Midnight could come with him. And yes, in this story, Midnight and Aizawa are a couple, or fiancés, you could say. And in the next day, Aizawa goes to the Midoriya residence and to knock on the door with Midnight close behind. In return, they see a skinny green-haired lady walking through the door, seeing both, seeing 2 heroes, Inko being confused, but smiling, saying, "Hello, how may I help you? Eraser and Midnight, I think?" And the reason she would know who they are is because, who else? It's Deku. But she would see them, and Aizawa would ask if he could question her and the rest of the Midoriyas. Her agreeing with her agreeing to what Eraser had asked, and she calls out in a loud tone, "Boys, come downstairs, please." And then you see a pure snow white haired man running downstairs in a almost All Might like All Might hair. He has the sort of yellow antennas through a headband that Izuku had, that Izuku placed on him, with a small green-haired boy riding on his back. Aizawa seeing this, questioning himself, thinking these could be different people, but he's still gonna question them. They sit to Hisashi sees the two heroes and is worried that they're gonna do something to his family. So he places Izuku down, with Izuku noticing the two heroes and running to them in astonishment, saying, "Oh my God, it's Eraserhead and Midnight!" Just fanboying, over them. Midnight smiling with Aizawa just doing a small chuckle, and Hisashi asking, "What may I have this visit from both of you?" Aizawa then saying, "Oh, just some questions that we need." Hisashi and Inko agreed, and all five of them go to sit on the couch, and with the Midoriyas sitting in front of Aizawa and Midnight. Aizawa says, "Sorry for the short notice or the inconvenience. I would like to question question you three, if you don't mind." Hisashi and Inko saying it's no problem, and Izuku not even listening, just looking in astonishment at the two heroes. As Aizawa was about to ask his first question, Hisashi takes off the All Might antennas to be serious for the moment. Aizawa asks them what their names are. Them just answering, and then Aizawa questions, "What do they work as?" Inko replying with, "I used to work as a caf, cash register, a cafe cash register, but now I just look after the house." As All for One, or Hisashi, either way, says, "I work for an artist company under the name of whatever. Let's just call them Koistry. They're the second most popular artist company in Japan." With this, Aizawa then would ask if he could have confirmation of this. Hisashi just standing up to go get his wallet to get his ID. While he goes, Aizawa asks Midoriya or Izuku, either way, what would he like to be when he grows up? Izuku just replying, "I want to be a hero." This just giving a smile to Aizawa and Inko. Aizawa, then thinks, maybe he's not All for One's child. I would have to double check. As he then thinks that, All for One walks in with his ID showing Aizawa, with Midnight confirming. Well, not confirming, just also seeing. Now, I will also say this conversation is recorded. So then when they bring it back to UA, not UA, to All Might to see, then they get to a more serious topic. They ask about their quirks. Inko just replying, "I have a weak analyzation quirk. It allows me to analyze someone's quirk." All for One, All for One having a mind quirk, let's say he can read minds, knowing what Aizawa and Midnight is there for, and that they have a and they're recording for All Might, he just comes clean. He says that his quirk is called All for One. This catching Aizawa off guard, him then stating, I know why you're here, I can read your minds. This just catching Izuku off guard, just saying, oh, wow, that's so cool, Daddy. What else can your quirk do? Hisashi just chuckling and saying, I'll tell you later. And Aizawa then saying, you know we'll have to talk about this without the child. Inko and Hisashi agreeing, just telling Izuku to go upstairs and play. Izuku runs upstairs saying goodbye, with the four grown-ups just staying there in a couple of seconds of silence, with All for One saying, I know what All Might must be thinking, that I'm using my child as a weapon against him, but in reality I'm just trying to clean out what I've done. I've stopped becoming a villain, and I've if I'm ever gonna use my quirk is either for self-defense, or if someone's taken hold of someone, like say a villain attack. This just Aizawa and Midnight just staying in silence, with All for One saying, if you're gonna take me to jail, I'll accept, but I will also wish to leave so then I can see my child grow up to be a hero. Aizawa then stating, okay, you might know that All might not be happy hearing this, hearing that you are All for One. All for One just looking down saying, I would like to talk with him, if that's not a problem. Aizawa nodding and saying his goodbyes, and them saying their goodbyes. Now we cut to a week when All Might's able to come to the Midoriya residence. As he walks through the door, he's not in his buff form, but All for One will know that it's All Might. And Izuku would be with Kachan or Bakugo out in the park, and All for One would be at the park with Inko, with All Might coming up to them saying hello, and All for One and All Might just walking away. He says, Toshi, it's been a while, I guess. All Might just looking at All for One just with anger in his eyes, just saying, what's your goal? What's your motive? All for One just saying, my motive, Toshi, is just to grow up my child and get him to what he wants to be and try to be a civilian. I'm trying my best to not go back to villainy. I'm not even gonna consider to go back. The only times I'll promise to ever use my quirk is either if someone's threatened with almost their life, or if there's a villain attack, or in self-defense. All my hearing this, just thinking, I can't trust him. He's done too much. All my saying, you're most likely gonna end up going to jail. You know this, All for One. All for One just looking down, saying, I know. I know what I've done is bad, and I will accept my punishment. But I wish to be able to at least get out before, or at least be able to see my child grow up, because I want to be there for him. And I don't know if my wishes can be answered. All my thinking, I can do you a solid. All for One, sorry. Just looking up in shock. All Might saying, I'll, I'll let I'll do a solid, but I'll let you. I won't let any police, any hero, take you into custody. But that means that if there's any time that I need help, you will come and help me out. All for one, just without even a second's thought, saying, "Yes, I accept your offer, All Might." Then All Might and All for One shake hands. Now we're gonna skip to 2 years. Bakugo already has his quirk, as Izuku has not got his quirk yet. As then Midoriya goes to his mother and notices something different. For some reason, he can see his mother's quirk. Well, see what's his mother's quirk and what it is now that it says that her quirk was analyzed, and her age, her height, everything about her husband, her family, everything, her real name, her marriage name, everything. And Izuku just telling his mother this thing, with Inko thinking, "Oh my god, it must be your quirk." Inko taking Izuku to the quirk doctor with All for One coming in saying hello. Then seeing Izuku just ecstatic, waving his legs like a complete psychopath while he's sitting on the chair. Izuku is just saying, "Daddy, you came." And as he says this, they hear, "Midoriya, can you please come into room 234, wherever?" They go to the room 234 with a doc. It's not the all for one doctor. It's just a random doctor who's gonna check that quirk, Izuku's quirk. And when he checks Izuku's quirk, he says, "This kid has a good quirk. His quirk is called Analyze. He can or it's called Analyze, but there's more to it. He can analyze a person's quirk, their life, their emotions, their heights, anything about them. But if he wants to, he can analyze. If he focuses hard enough, he can analyze their past and possible future. This is only theoretical, though." Hearing this, Izuku is delighted that he got his mother's quirk, but kinda sad that he couldn't get his father's quirk, which All for One did end up telling Izuku that his quirk was a simple mind fire, let's say, that he can use his mind and a fire quirk. All for One is happy, delighted, and so is Inko. Now, as they're driving back, Inko says to All for One, "I've noticed something different when looking." All for One just looks at her in curiosity, saying, "What is it, love?" She's just saying, "I can't see anyone's quirk anymore." This shocking All for One saying, "I didn't take it though." Then it clicked into his mind. Oops. Izuku Midoriya does not have a quirk like his mother's. No, it is his mother's. He's thinking. All for One thinking, "Oh my god." As Inko is saying, "What?" Izuku is in the back sleeping because he's tired. He's saying, "I think Izuku has my quirk." And then she thinks, "Wow, but my quirk couldn't do what his quirk can." Then Off One says, maybe his quirk allows him to take quirks, but also make them stronger. Maybe. Now, before we continue, I'm gonna explain Izuku Midoriya's quirk. His quirk is called All for One, kinda. There's gonna be a point. His quirk is not, for all they know, his quirk is called All for One. But I'll explain what I mean afterwards. It allows him, but from what you're gonna see so far, is that it's gonna allow him to see anyone's quirk, and he doesn't need to touch the person to take their quirk. But he would need to analyze the person's quirk before he could actually take the quirk. So that means, and when he takes a person's quirk, naturally he increases the quirk by 25%. The max he can do it by now is 50% if he really tries. But yeah, that's really it. When, let's say, 2 years later, All For One's been giving Izuku quirks, and he's told Izuku what his actual quirk is, but to tell everyone that his quirk was an analyzation quirk. Bakugo knows that Izuku has such a powerful quirk, and he doesn't think of him as a low life extra. No, he thinks of him as a brother, the brother that he wish he could have. And Izuku's growing up with confidence that not even the Izuku Midoriya in canon at season 4 has. He has very high confidence. He believes in himself. The moment he sees something, he believes himself. Now, I'm gonna explain some of the quirks that he has. The first quirk he has is his mother's quirk, which is an analyzation quirk. Then he has a super intelligence quirk. Then he has also all for one's force push quirk. But he can, if he wants to, pull things his direction or up and down, like sort of like the force. All for One also gave Izuku his levitation quirk. Oh, his levitation quirk. um, which Izuku ended up making it being able to do a full-on flight quirk, and almost he can almost go faster. He's probably the same speed as All Might, maybe, or a bit faster. He also gave him a super strength quirk, which he ended up making it to the strength of All Might. A super endurance quirk, which makes it so then even if All Might punches him at 100%, it would do it. It probably maybe make him spit out a bit of blood if he did 100% normal smash. A Dodori smash would probably knock him back a few feet. And he gave him a weak shock absorption quirk, because that's all for one had, which Izuku made it into a shock absorption quirk, like, let's say maybe a bit maybe like the Nomu's, or maybe like a third less than the Nomu's. And all and he also gave him a flame quirk. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, his All For One did end up telling Izuku what his quirk was, so that's why he's not shocked at any moment. He was at first, but he also gave him a fire manipulation quirk, which Izuku can do a lot with. Like, if he concentrates it enough, he can make blue flames. He All For One also gave him a he gave him like it's like a liquid teleportation. It's like the liquid starts to come out of like any part, maybe the floor or maybe out of the person, and then the liquid consumes them into a teleportation. Sort of like a void, sort of like I don't know. And for the last one, he gave him a eraser quirk. It's like Aizawa's, like it can but he erases quirks by touching a person, and he can decide when the person's quirk comes back. Before, it used to only be a time limit of 3 minutes, which is quite a lot if you think about it. But he was able to increase it to infinite, and he can decide. Now, we cut to when Nezuko Midoriya is 10 years old. Now, All Might, he's having a fight with the new number one villain, but technically active number one villain. But in actuality, Off One is not defeated in villain scores. He Wolf Ram and just Wolfram and his crew are there fighting All Might, and All Might is struggling because he can't get close to him. So he calls All for One to help him. And when All for One comes, he comes in throwing balls of energy. And the thing is that Izuku wanted to watch this fight, so he teleported there and was just watching in awe. And he knew he wasn't gonna get hurt because of the quirks that his father gave him. Now, his father did tell him never to take anyone's quirk. Never. And Izuku listened to him. He never took anyone's quirk. He just took the quirks that his father gave him. Now, Izuku's watching the fight, and All for One is bodying Wolfram until all of a sudden, to All for One's shock, a Nomu comes. Yes, the LOV has been created without All for One, and the doctor is like second in command, and Shigaraki is like kind of in charge. It's a kind of a joint combination with Shigaraki and the doctor and Kurogiri, because Kurogiri is a high Nomu, and yeah. Now, then Shigaraki, how he became a villain, let me explain. So Shigaraki became a villain because no one helped him, and it's, let's say, like after Alphon was supposed to get him, he didn't come, so he was just like thinking, but Shigaraki didn't know, so did Alphon didn't know, but Shigaraki was so aggravated, and he got his family's hands, and he wanted to kill everyone. He wanted to kill every citizen and villain. So he came and he disintegrates All for One's arm, shocking All for One and him running, moving back. Izuku is getting shocked, but his father already knows that Izuku's there, and he tells Izuku to not come close. Now, you must be saying, how is All for One getting, how is he getting defeated? Well, All for One, he's a little bit on the rough side. Like, he only remembers how to use a couple quirks, like his energy manipulation, his nail thing quirk, but at a weak scale, his teleportation quirk, and his um um his strength quirk. And he can use other quirks, but not as good as those specific ones, because he spent his time trying to be a normal person. So he doesn't remember what quirks he has. So he's struggling. And Dobby comes in and burns All for One's back, scorching it, giving him third degree burns on his back. All for One just thinking, what can he do to stop this? Then he thinks, the one quirk. It's an energy sort of force field push out quirk, and he used it. But All For One didn't know how to use it, so he ended up just spewing out blood everywhere. All Might seen this in horror, and all the villains are knocked back, and they think they they think to themselves, "We got the number one villain," and Wolfram. Let's just say they had a joint cooperation for a short amount of time, and they just leave with All For One just bleeding out on the floor. Now you must be thinking, wait, what about his super regeneration quirk that he has? The thing is that All For One doesn't understand what he has. He promised himself that he wouldn't become immortal because that was something he cannot live with. He wants to die human. He wants to die a normal death. Not normal. He doesn't want to keep on getting hurt. He doesn't want to keep on dying and coming back. So he tried to forget all those type of quirks. And he's in pain, bleeding out, and Izuku comes flying in to his dad with All Might holding All For One. And Izuku just in tears, crying out, what can he do to help him? And All For One just does one thing. One thing. He gives Midoriya everything. He gives every ounce of his quirks, including All For One. Now, the thing is, Midoriya ends up passing out from how many quirks just went in, and he had to process everything. And All For One just dies on the spot. Because if you think about All For One is like thousands of years old. He's like the first generation, I'm pretty sure. And he dies. And let's skip a week where it's the funeral of All For One. Izuku is just sad, and he wants to kill the people that did this to his father. And he doesn't care what happens. If he becomes a villain or a hero, he wants them dead. Now, thinking of this, Izuku then sees something in his head. It's called instinct kill. Anyone he touches with his 5 fingers explodes and dies. Now Izuku's thinking, where did this quirk come from? No one here has a quirk like that. Then he analyzes all the quirks that he has. Then, for some reason, he sees All For One, and the thing is, he doesn't see another All For One. He sees an All For All. Yes, Izuku Midoriya is not technically, he's All For One's son, but his quirk is not All For One. It's All For All. He can create any quirk he wants. And he sees this and is shocked because this was his quirk, which means he doesn't need to take someone's quirk, but he will still do it if he thinks someone deserves to lose that quirk. Now, Katsuki is also there, and he's comforting Izuku. And when they're walking away from the gravesite, Izuku's with Katsuki just saying, "Kachan, I just noticed something about my quirk. After looking at through all the quirks my father gave me," he says, "What?" "My quirk is actually called All For All." And Bakugo looks at him in confusion, like, "I don't get it." And he says, "It means my quirk. It's like my dad's, but I can create a quirk if I want to." Now this is what shocks. This is what shocks Bakugo, because he can create his own quirks. No, and he knew about whenever Izuku got a quirk, he knew about when Izuku got a quirk, he can increase how strong it is. And knowing his father probably having an enhancement quirk, thinking, this is gonna be so fucked. And he says, that's a very powerful quirk, Izuku. You should use it to become a hero and put those villains that killed your father in jail. Now, Izuku thinking, Kachan is right. I shouldn't go to villainy. That father wouldn't want me to do that. He would want me to become the best hero that could ever be, past number one. Now, Bakugo and Izuku would train a lot, and Izuku actually increased Bakugo's quirk by 25%. So Bakugo is able to make a normal sized explosion much more easier from less nitroglycerin than normal, and he also gave Bakugo a quirk that allowed him to, at any moment he wants, to sweat at any part of his body nitroglycerin. I can't pronounce it, sorry. And yeah, I'll continue for a bit longer. He he increases Bakugo's quirk, and he said, and when he does that, and he gave him the other quirk, and he says, be wise with these quirks, Bakugo, and become a great hero. Now, I will also say, All Might did give Bakugo one for all. He did want to give Deku one for all, but Izuku just said, I can make one for all if I wanted to be honest, so I don't really need it. Sorry, All Might, but I think Bakugo would have the quirk better. Now, I'm gonna say Bakugo's quirk is much more powerful. He can do 8% full cow, but when he uses his normal explosions, they're not bigger, but more powerful. And Bakugo can easily make, the flashbang ones. Bakugo, Bakugo he can at 10% do the AP shots because he doesn't understand the full chemistry of AP shot without one for all. And the thing is, he depends a lot on the second quirk Izuku gave him, because he thinks that the quirks that Izuku gave him was a gift. The quirk that Izuku gave him was a gift, and that he should use it to its full potential, which he does, because all it does is just makes him sweat nitroglycerin. Now you may be wondering, if you haven't seen season 4, skip like a minute or more, but Izuku, or I don't know what season it is, but warning, um Izuku, he won't have the other possessor's quirks like Izuku Midoriya, because there's a difference. Because Bakugo was, I don't think Bakugo is as worthy as, let's say, Izuku. Izuku was much more worthy. That's why he was given by the users all those quirks. Now, let's say one day he's 15, 14, sorry, and he's training, and All Might said, Deku did increase, All Might's, he did give All Might a strength quirk, so even though he can't use one for all, he can use a strength quirk, which allows him to still go in his buff form, and he can stay on his buff form for, before it was 3 hours, I'd say he can do it for max 11 hours because of the strength quirk, which is a lot. And he wanted to see how strong he was against Izuku. Now Izuku at this he's very stern. His physique is lean. You see how this looks, how All For One looks. He has that type of suit. Let's see if I have a better image. No, let's say this is how his father was when he was fighting the villains, but this is how Izuku looks like. He's much more he's very lean, but my god, you would be surprised that he's that slim with that much muscle. I'll just say that. He has a very deep voice. To- he's you can his you uh, sorry. His he's quite emotionless, but he has emotions. And I will say this is Izuku's hero costume, the suit, this bow tie, and the mask. Yeah, but Izuku, this is how Izuku's facial expression is. He is quite, though he does show emotion, but not too often. And All Might questions Izuku to see how strong he is against him and Bakugo. Bakugo at this time, he can go 10%, but his bones will creak a bit. No, sorry. He can go 25% with his bones creaking. Any high 30% higher, he breaks his bones. So yeah. Izuku accepts his request, and he wears the suit. He wears a suit, but not this. He wears like a more of like a black trousered suit and a white a white shirt. That's a button up shirt that you'd use for work. And when fighting them, Izuku just they start he says sure, and they get into their stance. Oh yeah, Dagobah Beach, Bakugo cleaned it up ages ago, but yeah, as I was saying, um, Bakugo, he blasts off with All Might. All Might's beating Bakugo in speed, to be honest, because of the strength quirk. Because just because you have a strength quirk doesn't mean you can't use the strength of the quirk on your legs. That's what I've thought. So he's like blasting off with 100% one for all, and Bakugo with 25%, because they know that Izuku could easily one shot them. But Izuku, of course, holds back no matter what, even if he fights someone, let's say, half its power, I don't know, half his power. I don't know if there anyone will be. He will always hold back no matter what, even if it seems like he's gonna die. Well, maybe not then, but he always holds back no matter what, even if he's fighting a villain. So Izuku just lifts out his right hand with his butt with his fingers facing downwards, with his nails showing, as he then shoots his fingers upwards with black like sharp blades. I'll see if I can find it. Like this, if you see what's coming out of his fingers. Now Izuku is shooting that out, catching the leg of Bakugo, making him tumble to the dusty sand floor. With All Might still coming in from Izuku's right, with Izuku just not even looking, grabs All Might's hand. And the thing is, since Deku's holding back, he's making sure that they can still defeat him. So then it's in an even fight. So he only uses specific quirks and specific limits to them. Now, as I was saying, Izuku just grabs All Might's hands, and All Might's pushing Izuku back as All Might then comes in with a left hook, saying Detroit Smash. Everything blowing up with dust going everywhere, and Bakugo and All Might knowing this does not knock Izuku out. Bakugo just comes flying in with a gaunt, like, you know how he explodes with his gauntlet, at Izuku with All Might jumping out of the way, and there's a massive explosion, and everyone that was watching just sees this, and then they see the boy just dusting himself off, like a bit of sand just went off on his shoulder in the dust. Not even caring, thinking light work. Though he does have little burn marks on him because he did hold back like some of his quirks, so then they can't damage him and everything. But his clothes, he made sure that his clothes don't break because he doesn't want to be walking around naked. Everyone's just thinking in awe, as everyone at this point knows that Izuku Midoriya is much stronger than All Might, but just seeing them fight is amazing to them. And it catches a lot of girls' eyes. Even girls like see Bakugo as a strong man and handsome, even though he is getting his ass whooped very soon. They he's in this story. Bakugo, he's still arrogant and an ass, but he's much more calmer. You could say he's much more not self-centered. He's not Deku, Shine all the time. He's more chill. He's like he can be quiet like Todoroki, let's say, but he he won't. That's the problem. He won't. Um, but okay. As I was saying, Izuku just looks at them with him just raising his right hand to the sky and then slamming it down. Just gathering it, gather, gathering sand like a tornado around him, and then he just throws his hand down, throwing a shock wave, throwing everything around him back, including sand. So it just makes like a sand wave, and even the water ripples like huge waves. I wonder how the other countries feel. But anyways, Bakugo and All Might are there just panting because they had to shoot a lot. All Might had to jump very high to dodge that. Quite high, and Bakugo had to use quite a bit of his quirk. Now Izuku did do drawbacks to the quirks, like the nitroglycerin. He made it Bakugo can create, and the thing is, it's much more. It's like I'd say 10% more potent than the normal one, which is quite a lot to be honest. But he does end up using a bit more stamina than he likes. So yeah. But with one for all, he can increase how much nitroglycerin he produces or how potent he makes it. But he does have the drawback of him being able to break his arm, which he has done that a couple of times facing Izuku. And All Might, for his drawback for his strength quirk, it just, I guess, it doesn't change how much stamina. I guess he has he has a limit to how much he can put. Let's say without draining his stamina, he can go 75%. No, 70%, 73%. Let's say without any drawbacks, but any higher, he starts draining a bit of his stamina, and that's what Zuko did. Which, if you think about it, it's quite a dick move just to take away stamina, but in the end, what is he gonna take, huh? For the nitroglycerin, take away how potent it is. That's takes away the point of the nitroglycerin, and for All Might's strength, it also buffs him up, so it's kind of excused. Um, but yeah, it's not like they can regain the stamina very quickly. But as I was saying, um, they land on the floor, and they're just looking at Izuku, just waiting for his next move. With Izuku just throwing his left hand, sorry, I was almost at right again. His left hand to the left. He does like he's about to backhand something, and then he curves it and throws it to the left, and All Might is thrown at Bakugo, with Bakugo not noticing and getting hit, and they're both kind of aggravated. So Bakugo goes full on 25%, and All Might makes sure he's at 100% of 100%, and they're charging at him, and the fight goes on for say a decent half an hour, and the they're quite tired out, and there's huge holes in the sand, and let's say there's like in the sky there's like holes and clouds from All Might's punches, and is Izuku just fixes everything besides the clouds, because why would he? But he fixes the sand and everything, and he heals them. Well, not heals them. He he just tops them off from when they were most energetic, I guess, to make them not tired. Because Izuku doesn't want to heal All Might because he thinks of it as um I don't know. He just doesn't want to heal All Might because and All Might, he doesn't want to also be healed because he sees this as a battle scar and of how he made a good friend. Because All For One and All Might over time they became great friends, and he was quite happy. But yeah, as I was saying, Izuku, they just separate, and he comes home with to see his mom. His mom is not like in canon where she's I don't want to say fat. Well, she was, but she's she's skinny and co. And she says, "Welcome home. Were you training with All Might and Bakugo again?" Izuku just nodding at this and saying, "Would you like help with dinner?" Her just smiling, saying, "Yes, that would be nice." Now, on the next episode, we're going to go a bit further into the story, like UA entrance exam. And I hope you'd enjoy this video. If so, please like and comment. Tell me how you feel about it. If you don't, dislike, I don't mind. And if you want to subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when I'm posting something like this. Well, yeah, have a lovely day, lovely evening, and goodbye.